As has been our practice, we'll do a roll call. Anita?
Here.
Lorna?
Here.
Lou? Lou raises his hand. Megan?
Here.
Jennifer?
Here.
Here. Jennifer, you have power. I know there was a thunderstorm over your way, but.
Lost it this morning, but it's here right now.
Okay. Tanner, are you with us? No. Okay, thank you very much. We do have a quorum present. So if we could do our Pledge of Allegiance to start the meeting off. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you very much. We do have a few adjustments to the agenda. Everyone can hear and see me, right? I can't hear and see myself. So we do have some adjustments to the agenda. As item 3.0, the next item, Katie is going to give us a report on the phased restart and also I believe give us some numbers based on the parental response on remote learning versus in-person learning, at least preliminary numbers. So that will be item 3.0. Item 4.0 will remain public comment, and I believe Patrick distributed those about 8 pages of comments that we received, and I'm asking you to bear with me. I will read them into the record. It's going to take a little bit of time, but we will read them. Item 5.0 then becomes our finalized the 3-week phased-in restart for pre-K through 5. And item 6 remains our adjournment. Okay. Anything else, Patrick, or would that go? Okay. Okay, fine. Thanks. Katie, item 3.0, you're up.
Okay, great. So I'm just going to remind everyone of where we left off and then add a little bit more information. So during the last meeting, we improved the conceptual plan for the pre-K to 12 start. And I know, I won't go into all the details that we discussed last time because it was a extensive meeting, but the plan would be to have students start on September 8th for everyone except for pre-K, which would start the following week, which was always the plan. And that initially we were going to start having pre-K to 5 at 100%, but then decided that we would take some time, given the feedback that we had received, to make sure that we had a little bit more time to ease students into it. And so what it currently looks like is that from September 8th through September 25th, pre-K to 5 would come 2 days a week with no distance learning happening. And then starting the 28th, they would be 100% in person. For 6 through 12, what it looks like is, again, they start on the 8th at 2 days a week with no distance learning week 1, but distance learning for them, since they'll be in the hybrid model moving forward, would start week 2. In terms of how we came to the decision of the 3-week start for the ease-in phase, Patrick and I reached out to principals, administrators, as well as a sprinkling of teachers on different leadership teams to get their sense of whether they, one, wanted more professional development time, because as you know, teachers come back on the 1st through the 4th, and 2, whether they felt like they needed, how much time they needed to ease in. And as I'm sure many of you are not surprised, it was similar to all the surveys we've done, where some of them said, I just want students right away. And they didn't want an ease in at all. And then others wanted even more time than the 3 weeks, and even more professional development time. And so given the variety of responses, we sort of picked something in the middle that principals felt was a fair compromise that gave everybody some of what they requested, essentially. So that would be the 4 days of professional development time for teachers, all teachers, and then the 3-week ease-in for the lower grades, no distance learning for week 1 for anybody, and then transitioning on the 28th to the 100% pre-K to 5. One detail that we actually have been looking into and exploring that I wanted to bring up, because I think it will actually help sort of, hate the expression kill 2 birds with 1 stone, but I'll use it, is we're sort of, we want to honor both, many of us as parents ourselves, that kindergarten drop-off moment that is both difficult for kids as it is for the parents who usually do that moment. And we really couldn't wrap our heads around how to allow that to happen with it feeling authentic and really like a true moment, rather than just like a, nice to meet you at the door, and then the student has to go in alone. We also were worried about the little amount of information we have on kindergartners coming in, given the fact that we've sort of had to change how we've done some things. And we also didn't want, with only 2 days with them in the first week, some of their initial moments to just be assessing. And so what we've sort of come to as a possible scenario that we're considering is actually having the kindergartners not attend at all in week 1 of the ease-in, so the week of September 8th, and rather the kindergarten teachers would use that entire week to have half-an-hour appointments where they would be able to have the family member and the kindergartner into their room for individual time, to give them a tour, to get to know each other a little, possibly to play like a getting to know you game or something, show them where their stuff would go, so the parent has a visual and a sense of how the student would be spending their days. And that would be probably the first 15 minutes of the meeting. And then the second 15 minutes, the parent would go wait outside the building or in their car or wherever they feel comfortable. And the teacher would do quick 15 minutes of assessing. In 10 or 15 minutes, actually, we can get 3 of the assessments done that we would normally do with a kindergartner. Letter ID, which is them naming their letters, not sounding them out, just naming them. Their writing vocabulary assessment, which is seeing if they're able to write their name and how they write it. And then drawing a picture, usually of a person, and the teachers would figure out what they would like to do to see some of their motor skills, and also just get to have a conversation with the student about their sense of self, sense of other people, and that sort of thing. And so that would sort of be a nice moment for the teacher and the student to get to work alone together, get to know each other a little bit more, and also for the teacher to be able to sort of hit the ground running more easily during the week when the kids actually come in. So I just wanted to be clear that I know we want to really make sure that we're not constantly changing things on families, because I know, myself as someone with a 4-year-old, when you need to know you need to have childcare, that's something you need to plan for. However, I think the kindergarten piece was something we weren't totally comfortable with, and we've checked in with some teachers about it. They're very positive about this plan. I think that it puts them at ease a little bit more, and also allows for families to get some personal time, which we know is important. And so that's sort of where that is right now. And we have gotten, which I know is why we're having this meeting, feedback from teachers and staff members, which Steve will read, that again, lands on both ends of the spectrum of, I've heard from some teachers, there's still too much time that we're easing in. We want less time, and others who feel like it's not nearly enough time, and how are they going to manage? And so I guess I will stop there with the sort of refresh of where we left off. I would be happy to go into the survey info now, but I didn't know if you guys wanted to ask clarifying questions or anything just of the piece I already went over before I do the survey.
Any questions for Katie?
No? Okay. Okay, so for the survey, we received a total of 1,783 responses. As of the last time I checked my email, which is fairly recently, we had secretaries and principals all have a list of the families that had not responded to the survey. And all of those families, almost all of them in all the buildings, have started to be called or are called, and most principals have only 10 or fewer who they've had no contact with. So basically at this point, we've reached or will reach as of tomorrow most people. If we don't get contact with them for whatever reason, we're assuming they're coming. Just for the sake of planning purposes, it's a lot easier to make a place for them, plan for them to be there, than it would be to have to try to include them back in, move furniture around, find them a bus seat and whatnot. So that's sort of how we're moving forward with that. In terms of the feedback we received from families, 82% of the whole district want the offered in-person plan that connects with their grade level. Meaning 82% of our families are sending their kids in to do the plan we've proposed. 13% want full distance learning. So if you add 13 plus 82, you get 95. And so you're probably wondering, well, what is the other 5%? There was on purpose, you could either select I want the in-person, I want the distance, or an other. And then with the other, that's the 5%, they could put anything. So some people's responses were the Maine Maritime program, homeschool. Some of them did want the in-person plan, but wanted to mention that they wanted the 5 days because their student had a special education plan. And so I would say the maximum we would have disenroll is probably based on those responses, like maybe 2 or 3% at most, because a lot of that 5% is actually families just clarifying whether they agreed with the options, whether they needed more days because of an IEP. And so there were some people that just said straight homeschool, but those are all being clarified with principal phone calls. So those are sort of the basic numbers in terms of who selected which model for this year. In terms of busing, which was the last question, 55% said no busing, that they would bring their students, and 45% said yes to the bus and left their address that they would like as their pickup and drop off location.
Thanks, Katie. Just to drill into the numbers, and I understand we might not be there quite yet, but we don't know what the response is by grade level, right?
No, it's with our next step, which is why principals needed to make all these calls, is to determine school at each school how many per grade level. And so we don't, because it just closed last night, we don't have that information. They have it individually row by row. I do not have an aggregate of that information right now. It'll probably take us the whole of the week to have those lists and determine how many students we need to connect with how many teachers who are going to be distance. So that we have an administrative team meeting on Thursday, and the bulk of that time will be spent on where we are at with figuring out what everybody needs, both teachers and students, and starting to make pods for distance learning and figuring out busing. So those are some really big things that need to get tackled this week. So sorry I don't have more detailed information on that, but there just hasn't been enough time.
Okay. And that 82 or 83% really almost mirrors when we did the surveying back with the committee when we had those
It
subcommittee.
does. Yeah, it was split 80-20 at that time.
So it pretty
So
much.
one thing I would say, there are now fewer people picking distance learning than originally said they were going to.
Okay.
Slightly.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Katie. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Questions for Katie from the board? No. Lorna, okay, you gotta come on. Your mic is off. You're muted.
I know, I was giving other people a chance to weigh in before I started in. So just, Katie, just to remind me, I know the numbers are fresh, but do we know, I just don't remember enrollment, entire enrollment and all that. I thought it was like around 1,700 or so. So does 82% represent, what does that represent for bodies generally? Do you know? Like, I'm trying to get a frame of reference on what 82% represents for numbers, if you know.
I don't. Because it's harder than just saying, well, we have this many students and 82% of them are coming, because not everybody answered the survey. So basically what the number means is pre-K to 12 of people who responded, 82% want to send their kids in to do the plan. So there's no, and again, it's been too quick of a turnaround to be able to give you, and that means X many students, but we will definitely have those numbers soon.
And so we don't know, since tonight is talking about pre-K through 5, we don't know of that number, what's pre-K through 5 either. This is entire district, 82% and 13% and 5%.
Right. We do not know what the proportion of those 82%.
The only thing, if you guys did want more detail, the only thing I could think of is that principals are on this call and they could pipe up and possibly, it depends on how much they've drilled down on the data and how many responses they've gotten. But I see Jason raising his hand.
So as of right now, I would have 158 students attending pre-K to 5 daily. I would have 75 students in our 6 to 12 hybrid model, and 28 students have chosen a fully distance learning option. And I'm a little bit on the higher end. I've got about 20 students we're still trying to track down. Tomorrow, hopefully we'll have their answers, but roughly, so together, that if for K to 8, we would be at roughly, what, 225 kids attending.
Okay. Jen, I know you know yours.
And that's out of, Jason, that's out of how many students?
Mute button. All right, there we go. I'm sorry. That's out of 317 total students that were surveyed.
So 20 out of 317 are going to be working from home.
Yeah, so 10%. Right now, out of the responses I have, 10% would be choosing fully distance learning.
Okay. Jen, do you want to go next?
Yep. So we have 210 students enrolled. We have 162 planning to attend in person. So we are at about 78% full attendance. In person, we would have 12 pre-K students, right around 60 kindergartners, about 53 first graders, and right around 40 second graders. Distance learning, we have 46 students signed up for distance learning, and it's distributed across the grades. Our lowest grade for distance learning is first grade. I'm sorry, pre-K. Not many pre-K students are opting for distance learning.
All right, Ross or Sandra, who wants to go next?
Can you hear? I'll go.
Yeah, go ahead.
So We have 200 kids and we had a 96% response rate so far. We have 134 kids who are going to attend at Fisher, which is about 70%. And then we have 43 kids who are choosing fully remote, which is 43 kids, which is 22%. And then the remainder are going to be choosing either a combination of homeschool and some local private schools. Roughly, I can say that it's pretty evenly distributed between 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. I don't have the precise figures yet for each of those. And we're still waiting on 7.
Thanks.
I didn't have a chance to make as many calls today as I had hoped. So we have about 80% responding. We have 10 doing fully remote and 2 doing homeschooling. And of the homeschoolers, 1 is a pre-K student, and the other few students that are doing remote, they're generally students who have lived in Bath and then drive to Phippsburg. And we're waiting to hear from several families, but of the families that we haven't heard from, I would be very confident that they would be coming to school, and they're clustered in siblings, like 3 or 4 siblings that would be coming.
Thank you.
Thank you all for being so on top of it, given you just got the information.
Thank you.
Thanks for those numbers. Any other questions of Katie or the principals on either?
Hi. So with those kind of numbers, I mean, obviously I haven't had much chance to analyze it yet. Does it sound like with certain, we're going to be talking about all the kids those who want to coming back 5 days a week. So do we know yet? We may not know yet if the numbers we're talking about of those who want to attend every day, if that's going to be overwhelming, or actually it'll fit well if there's some 40 kids at a given school who are distance learning. Will that be easier in a classroom, or is that the next step that we're trying to figure out?
Yeah, Jason, go ahead. I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I don't, it's pretty much what I would have expected, Lou. So I don't think it's going to really significantly change us. The only thing I really need to do this week is, once we dig those numbers slightly, dig to the next layer per grade, it might require a little bit of tweaking to move a couple kids from one class to another to balance, so we can utilize space in classrooms better. Just swapping, if one is a little heavier with 15 and the other one only has 10, then I would move a couple of kids so we can make that work smoother. But I don't see, based on the numbers, I wouldn't say that's going to complicate anything more than what we've done. We've did another walkthrough today. I did another walkthrough today with Beth Kaiser, just looking at spaces to provide interventions and special education needs, because those are going to require more one-to-one spaces or smaller instructional spaces. And we feel pretty confident in being able to do that as well. So, I think we will, it won't really change a lot for us right now, Lou. We're still, still plugging away, moving ahead to what we can do.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Katie, does this number of kids wanting to come back, does that complicate how we were talking about splitting the kid, having enough space to split the kids the first 3 weeks? Is that about what you were?
No, yeah, I would say, we made all of our plans assuming 100% of kids were coming back. So whenever a student chooses distance learning, we have more space.
Thank you.
Which actually, we would love all kids to come back, but only if they're comfortable. And so a benefit of kids choosing distance learning is classrooms will be able to spread out more, which actually makes things like when the weather changes, being able to spread out, do lunch sometimes inside, have a mask break inside, things like that, where if you can't get more than 3 feet between kids are much more challenging to coordinate, that will be slightly easier.
Okay, any further questions, discussion on these numbers? I think that observation, Katie's point is a good one. You know, the planning was predicated on 100% return. So, you know, it's not fortunate. It's not
No,
what we
yeah.
would like, as Katie indicated. But the fact that our numbers are coming in between 70 and 80% of kids who would return does give us a little bit more flexibility in terms of utilization of space. And I think we have to we have to acknowledge that the decision parents are making on whether to send their kids back or not is based on factors which are beyond the scope of what we're doing here. Perhaps, you know, parents may make this decision based on factors that we're simply not able to influence one way or the other. So,
Yeah.
okay, any other questions, or if not, let's move on. Thanks, Katie. Thank you very much. And again, thank you
You're
to
welcome.
the principals for looking at those numbers. If you can, as you finalize the numbers and drill down into them, if you would be sure, Patrick, Katie, to get them out to the board as soon as.
Yep, we will absolutely do that.
Yep. Okay, item 4.0 is public comment, and as has been the practice of the board, we do take public comment. We do not necessarily address each item that's submitted as part of the public comment, but we do welcome comment and thank those who have sent comments in for this evening. So this is where I get to read the comments. So if you'll indulge me, we got comments from Shalone Hearson from Dyke Newell, and concerns. Students will need masks, will need mask-free outdoor recess. It is highly unlikely they will stay 6 feet apart. It is also extremely difficult for our already stretched thin staff to make this happen. Second concern, 3 to 5 minute maximum of a mask break seems very short. An additional concern, a single in-house sub will help, but will not cover all absences. Substitute teachers, if they can be found, are unlikely to be able to follow the safety mandates. Pulling from in-house staff will negatively impact school function. Students' hands are going to be chapped and painful. This will eliminate hand sanitizer as an option, and many classrooms do not have their own sinks. It feels like the 100% plan is in place to provide childcare for parents to go back to work, not because it's what's best for kids. 5 days a week with these strict protocols is developmentally inappropriate for our youngest kiddos. And that was from Shalon Hearson. Second comment from Linda Stiles from Dyke Newell. I appreciate the board considering questions from members. My question is this. It is my belief that both quality antibody testing and rapid COVID testing are essential to know where we stand. What testing will be available to us and/or students, if any, or are we reliant upon our doctor's offices and testing sites? Thank you so much. I appreciate all you're doing to contend with this situation. And again, that was from Linda Stiles. These are comments from Joan Newkirk. Although I appreciate that the board is considering a 3-week transition back to school, I believe that a few weeks is not enough time for young children to adjust to returning to school this year. Research has shown that under normal circumstances, students need 6 weeks to adjust to a new school year. Beginning the year with a hybrid model may allow for a smoother transition. I hope that the board will consider a hybrid model for the first trimester of school, and here are my reasons why. A hybrid model with less students in the classroom at one time would allow room for social distancing and smaller cohorts as recommended by many health experts. We need ample time to troubleshoot and solve problems before committing to a full-time schedule. Air filtration systems and cleaning routines need time to be established. Students will need to learn protocols and build stamina for the new requirements. Lorna, I need your water. I thought I brought a glass with me, but I didn't. Sorry. The restrictions, and this, Joan is continuing here. The restrictions will make for a long day for our students. Wearing masks and social distancing for 5 days would be exhausting. A hybrid schedule would allow more time to devote to deep cleaning. A hybrid model may offer more flexibility for families and childcare options. The course of this school year is unpredictable, so a hybrid would be a fluid approach where students would be comfortable moving into online learning if warranted. RSU1 would be more in line with its neighboring school districts, many of which are starting with a hybrid approach. RSU1 has made an investment in online programs which could be implemented at home and free up time in the classroom for screen-free activities. Thank you for your thoughtful work on this matter. Again, that's Joan Newkirk. The next comments are from, this is Angela Green, the source of these next comments. Oh, excuse me. Mary McCauley is the source of this next comment. Here is a question for the board for Tuesday night. If the CDC recommends a 14-foot distance between students during outside PE with their masks off, what is recommended for students at recess with and without masks? Understanding that students will not be standing still at recess. And that was from Mary McCauley down in Phippsburg. The next comments are from Angela Green. Dear RSU1 board members, first I would like to thank you for taking the time to read through my questions and concerns with the reopening plan at 100% of students pre-K through 5. Concerns. I'm concerned that students will not be given frequent mask breaks at 100% of students. Most classrooms cannot accommodate 6-foot distance between students. I'm concerned students will not be given frequent, no, I guess you repeated that same comment, so I won't read it again. I'm concerned students will not be given a mask break outside of their scheduled recess time if needed. Oh, excuse me. Let me go back. That was a variation, her second comment. I'm concerned students will not be given frequent mask breaks during inclement weather at 100%. Most classrooms cannot accommodate 6-foot distance between students. I'm concerned students will not be given a mask break outside of their scheduled recess time if needed with 100% of students. I'm concerned that students will not get enough mask breaks in a full 7+ hour day at 100% of students. Most classrooms cannot accommodate 6-foot distance between students. I'm concerned that students will refuse to wear a mask. I'm concerned that students will not be given a snack during inclement weather at 100% of students because most classrooms cannot accommodate 6-foot distance between students. I am concerned students will be unable to eat lunch during inclement weather at 100% of students. Most classrooms cannot accommodate 6-foot distance between students. I am concerned that there isn't extra space and staff to make lunch possible during inclement weather at 100% of students. I'm concerned that students will not be able to drink water when they are only 3 feet apart in the classroom at 100% of students. I'm concerned for the safety of students when they are participating in gym class while wearing face masks indoors. I'm concerned about the safety of students as they exit the building for recess, remaining 3 feet apart. A full classroom averages 16 students, and at 3 feet apart, that makes the line of students over 50 feet long. I'm concerned that teachers will not be able to keep their eyes on every student when they exit the building. I'm concerned for their safety. I'm concerned for our young students' emotional state when they are unable to play with their peers and must remain 3 feet apart while in the classroom and 6 feet apart on the playground. I am concerned that our young students will not be able to remain 6 feet apart while playing on the playground. Young students typically want to play in close proximity with their peers. I am concerned that they will be forced to stay inside and will not be able to get a mask break. If they cannot comply by the 6-foot guideline. This will trigger anxiety around play and create negative peer relationships. I am concerned for their emotional state. I am concerned that young learners will be unable to remain at their desks and 3 feet apart from their peers in the classroom. I'm concerned that students will be too far away from their teachers during instruction. Our young learners get distracted easily, and as a result, our young students learn best in close proximity to the speaker. I am concerned for the emotional effect of these guidelines will have on our youngest learners. I am concerned that they will have negative feelings about school. I am concerned that our youngest students will not physically be able to wear a mask 5 days a week for 7+ hours a day if we include the bus commute, which averages to 30 to 35 hours per week of mask wearing. I feel a hybrid model will allow a break for our youngest students. And then Angela has a series of questions. How will students be given frequent mask breaks at 100% when most classrooms cannot accommodate 6 feet of space between students? How will students be given frequent mask breaks during inclement weather? How will students be given frequent mask breaks outside of their scheduled recess time if they need it? How many mask breaks will students get to have in a full 7+ hour day? What happens when a student refuses to wear a face mask? How will students have snack on days with inclement weather at 100%? How will students eat lunch during inclement weather? Are there enough extra classrooms that aren't being used for storage? Is there enough school staff to assist? Can students drink water when only 3 feet apart from their peers? How can students safely participate in gym class while wearing a mask indoors? How will students safely line up to exit the building, remaining 3 feet apart with full classrooms with an average classroom size of 16 students? The line would be over 50 feet long. That can become dangerous when the teacher can no longer have eyes on the whole class as they exit the building. At 50%, the line will be significantly shorter, creating a better visual of the students by the teachers. How will our young students feel when they have to remain 3 feet apart from their peers and 6 feet apart from their teachers? How will they feel when they can't play during recess or in the classroom? Will our young students be able to remain 6 feet apart while playing on the playground Young students typically play in close proximity to their peers. Will they be able to stay away from their peers? What if they can't? Do they stay inside for recess? How will they get mask breaks if they can't remain 6 feet apart? This will trigger anxiety around play and create negative peer relationships. How will our young students remain? How will our young students remain in one spot in the classroom all day? How far will students be from their teachers during instruction? How will this affect young students on an emotional level? How will they feel about school? Will they still want to come to school? Will our youngest students physically be able to wear a mask 5 days a week for 7+ hours a day if we include the bus commute, which averages to 30 to 35 hours per week of mask wearing? Should we consider a hybrid model to allow a break for our youngest learners? Can parents choose to do a hybrid model if they want their child to go to school but fear for the emotional stress it will add to their little lives? Do parents only have the option of 100% in-person learning or full distance learning? Is opening the schools at 100% really the safest option for our little learners? Should we consider how uncomfortable school can be for our youngest learners without COVID health guidelines? Should we rethink how these precautions are going to affect our young learners? Is this developmentally appropriate for our youngest learners to have no control over their day and be forced to abide by these strict guidelines and still be expected to learn? Should we consider a hybrid model and reevaluate after the first semester? Thank you again for your time and reading through my questions, concerns. And again, those were from Angela Green. The next comments are from Jason and Sheila Lamontagne. Thank you for continuing to provide opportunity for parents to voice comments and concerns. We do have 3 follow-up questions. Do you have a substitute plan for open classroom and bus windows, or utilizing outdoor spaces for social distancing during inclement weather or as winter approaches? It would seem these measures shouldn't be considered core parts of the plan given the uncertainty of weather. Have you developed any ideas to smoothly transition pre-K through 5 to hybrid or full distance learning in the event of Saginaw County being reclassified to yellow or red? While a fully developed plan is premature and an unnecessary distraction from your current full slate, it would seem appropriate to at least have a rough idea because such a transition could sneak up on our community quickly and unexpectedly. Finally, and perhaps most importantly to us anyway, will the school board actively consider feedback from teachers, staff, and administrators prior to transitioning to full-time in-person learning at the end of September? For instance, if the elementary staff report difficulty with consistent mask usage, social distancing, or other new protocols when classes are only at 50% student capacity during September, a transition to full-time capacity may prove completely unworkable in being able to meet those required protocols. Will the school board remain flexible and adjust the plan based on staff feedback of actual conditions? Again, thank you for continuing to consider our concerns. Again, now it's Jason and Sheila Lamontagne. Next comments are from Larissa Costello. Good evening. I'm writing to you as a teacher and parent in the district. I have 2 students that attend Woolwich Central School in the 1st grade and kindergarten. I want to say thank you for all you have done this summer. I know that you've scheduled extra meetings, collaborated with countless staff, and also been able to hear the opinions of staff and parents in the district. I know that you're taking all this into consideration when you have yet another tough discussion to hold tonight. I recognize and appreciate the dedication that you are providing for staff and students of the district. The first plan that was released left a lot of unknown and unanswered questions, but in the last few weeks, we have received a ton of answers. I feel that the district has devised a really solid plan to bring our students back to school in person. Teachers are creating innovative ways to make in-person learning work, and I hope utilize the outdoor space as much as possible. Even with the current plan, we have teachers and parents scrambling to find any means of childcare possible so that they can continue to work, because a lot of parents are essential workers. This is a consideration that I think the school board needs to consider. Having students start 2 days a week to learn new routines is good for a short period, but now you're going to have these students being put in childcare the other days, which may not hold the same social distancing expectations. A lot of childcare options available are not licensed facilities and therefore are not requiring masks or social distancing. This could make it harder for students to learn the routines for school, not to mention changing the timeline or school start date now just puts these parents, especially teachers, in a hard spot to adjust or find more care for their children. This need for childcare is also going to be another financial burden on parents that could already be struggling at this time. I feel that it is in the best interest of the community that we serve to maintain the timeline and dates discussed in the current plan. It is sad that we as parents, teachers, and students will experience things differently this year, but we are in a different time right now with different circumstances. Virtual open houses would be a welcome way to show off the classroom and allow parents and students to meet the teacher. Innovative strategies such as these will allow for us to move forward in getting our students into the classroom full time so that we can help them advance on the learning that they have been separated from since March. I invite you to share my thoughts at the board meeting on the 18th. My goal is not to upset anyone, but to have the voices of as many constituents heard as possible to thoroughly help guide your decisions in the interest of the whole community. Thank you for listening to these thoughts and concerns. And again, that was Larissa Costello. Next comment. My name is Katie Hendrickson, and my address is 2 Mill Pond Drive in Bath. I am a national board certified first grade teacher at Dyke Newell School. I have 20 years of experience teaching in the Bath schools. Thank you for agreeing to listen to my concerns. Please interpret this letter's content within the context of the board's policy on student rights and responsibilities, in particular, A, civil rights, including the right to equal educational opportunity and freedom from discrimination, the responsibility not to discriminate against others. Because the electronic mail that I received from Laura Devon, one of the presidents of the Saginaw Education Association, on August 11, indicating that, quote, the superintendent is only open to discussing the timeline for returning to full 100% in-person learning with CDC precautions in place, close quote. I will start by asking why the agenda tonight is so limited in its scope. On August 14th, I received a 14-page working electronic document from the principal of Dyke Newell School that is titled DNS Fall Reopening Plan and COVID-19 Guidelines for Staff. The document contains all of the brand new procedures and protocols that staff will need to learn so that we can teach them to the students. It also breaks down what students and teachers will need to do daily in order to meet the CDC guidelines. According to the DNS document, no school visitors, quote, no school visitors are allowed in the building at this time, close quote. So I will explain how much time per day the current plan allows teachers to teach academics, because board members will not be able to see what is happening at Dyke Newell. Each student will be in school for a total of 345 minutes. 8:30 to 2:15 or 9:30 to 3:15 per day when school is fully in session. Approximately 30 minutes will be dedicated to transitioning to school, including washing their hands and having staff monitor them, placing their belongings in their cubbies, desks, removing their outerwear and putting it away, using the bathroom, getting breakfast, eating breakfast, and throwing their breakfast trash away, the hallway trash cans, and then washing their hands again. More time will be needed in winter when students will have to manage more outdoor wear. 40 minutes for morning snacks and recess, including washing their hands before eating, eating their snacks either outside or inside the classroom, lining up and walking to the playground while maintaining 6 feet of distance between each other, playing on the playground, lining up and walking back to the classroom and washing their hands again. 45 minutes for a daily special, including 2.5 minutes on either side of the 40-minute special for transition time. 30 minutes for mask/water breaks, 6 hours of school times 5 minutes per hour per break. 60 minutes for lunch and lunch recess to include lining up to go to recess, playing on the playground, lining up to return to the cafeteria/classroom, washing their hands, eating their lunch, and washing their hands after eating, all while maintaining 6 feet of space between students. 15 minutes to transition home, including washing their hands, packing their backpacks, waiting for the bus to arrive, walking down the hall, and boarding the bus. 10 minutes per day for random bathroom usage, including having to wait in line because only one child is allowed in the bathroom at one time, and washing their hands after using the bathroom. This is a minimal amount of time. Depending on the number of students using the bathroom, the student could wait much longer for those in front of them to finish. Here are some usual daily interruptions that teachers must address when teaching young children. Some days are more than these totals, some days less. 20 minutes per day to address usual student health issues, including dry or chapped lips, minor nosebleeds, lost teeth, minor abrasions, insect bites, and closed blisters. Note that these issues used to be addressed by the school nurse, but now classroom teachers are being asked to handle these issues according to the Dyke Newell Fall Reopening Plan. 15 minutes per day to help children with self-care related to safety, including tying shoes and helping with buttons and zippers. Minutes per day with in-class subject area transitions. It takes an entire class of 15 young children approximately 5 to 7 minutes to put away their materials from one subject and get out the appropriate materials for the next subject. For example, when going from reading to math, students need to put their books in their cubbies, get out their math journal, find the correct page, and then get a pencil. Subjects taught that need transitions are reading, writing, math, science, and social studies. 30 minutes per day addressing off-task student disruptive behaviors, including lack of focus, talking out of turn, failing to transition appropriately, yelling out, making extra noise, talking frequently to others, and moving out of their designated spaces. There will be time needed to focus on students' mask needs. For example, they may need to be adjusted to cover their noses and mouth, or they may need to be replaced. I did not add to this total. I did not add this to the total because I have no experience with this and do not know how long this will take. The total of all these times equals 335 minutes. The total time students will be in school is 345 minutes, leaving minutes per day for academic instruction. Initially, all of our instructional time is to be devoted to teaching students to use the new distance learning computer programs so that if and when the entire district changes to distance learning, we will be prepared. This schedule leaves absolutely no time for traditional academic instruction. In addition, one of the rationales for sending children to school is that they need exposure to their peers to develop their social skills. Make no mistake, teachers will do their best to separate children from each other, which will allow limited interaction. In addition, children who need specific interventions for their social skills will not be receiving them because the DNS fall reopening plan and COVID-19 guidelines for staff states, quote, "At this time, lunch groups and social groups will not be possible," close quote. In this 10 minutes per day of academic instruction, is this 10 minutes per day of academic instruction worth putting several hundred children and 30 plus staff members at risk for contracting a lethal virus? Contrast and compare these 10 minutes with students who are being taught virtually. The DNS fall reopening plan and COVID-19 guidelines for staff document states that, open quote, "For families who elect to be 100% distance learning, students will be assigned to a distance learning teacher who will be responsible for their academics as well as their contact person. Classroom teachers for in-person instruction will not be responsible for distance learning students. IEP and other related services will be provided to distance learning students by a distance special education teacher. Distance learning will consist of 2.5 to 3 hours per day of work coordinated through the Brightspace learning platform. There will also be pencil and paper packets mailed home weekly by the distance learning teacher with an envelope for the family to mail back," close quote. Which plan would you choose for your child, your grandchild, your niece or nephew? Is the board observing its own policy of honoring the civil right of all students to an equal educational opportunity and freedom from discrimination? This single policy is one of the reasons that school districts in Maine are following the same educational schedule for students from pre-K through 12. Can the board please explain the rationale in their decision to allow the elementary staff and students to assume more exposure risk than middle and high school staff, as well as the virtual learners? Can the board please explain the rationale for their decision to support the inequities in academic instruction time between the in-person students and the distance learners as described above? Thank you very much for your targeted response to my questions. I'll be watching the board meeting in anticipation of your response. Respectfully submitted, Kathy Hendrickson, MS, ED, National Board Certified Teacher, Dyke Newell. I also received a comment from a Phippsburg teacher that did not go to the full board. Give me a second here. I'm not going to use her name, but she is a teacher on the staff down in Phippsburg. Dear Mr. August, this letter concerns the school board meeting held August 3rd, 2020, and the return to school on September 1st, 2020. I'm a resident of Bath, Maine, and I work at Phippsburg Elementary School as a special education teacher. The August 3rd decision made by the school board to begin pre-K through 5 with 50% attendance was a disappointment. The committees and administrators carefully crafted the best plan for our district. They consulted with a wide variety of community members. The decision of the school board to alter a plan which had been developed over the several months was unsupportive of hard work of the RSU1 administration. I'm in favor of beginning the school year with 100% in-person instruction for PK through 5. The nursing staff of RSU1 have made well-informed plans and recommendations to keep students and staff safe. I have complete confidence in administration to uphold safety protocols. So I received that additional comment. Okay, thank you for indulging me. Again, it is not our practice to respond to the specifics of any of the comments raised, but they could come up in our ensuing discussion, of course. I want to move on then to item 5.0 on our agenda, which is to finalize the 3-week phased restart for pre-K through 5. And I'm going to make a couple comments first, and then I'm going to hold us to Robert's rules. So I'm going to ask someone that we place this motion, that we make this motion and second it, and then we will have our discussion. And if people feel strongly that we should not authorize the administration to go forward with the plan, we vote it down, and then we start all over again with another motion. So be prepared for that if you would. I just want to say that, I again reiterate that regardless of how we start this school semester, this school year, changes are going to happen. That's inevitable. We are subject to a lot of unknowns out there. We are looking for a plan, a structure that will help guide us through a year but unfortunately we are unable to control all the factors that are going to influence us and guide our actions through that year. I do want to make a comment. It does match one of the comments or answer one of the comments made in public comments made, and that is that the board and the administration will carefully evaluate and assess our progress throughout the year. And if at any point we feel that students or staff are at risk, we will make those adjustments to address those issues and those concerns. I mean, I think that goes without saying. I don't think any board member would argue with me on that. This is an evolving situation. It remains an evolving situation. It started in March. It's going to continue in September. It's probably going to continue through the year. We will not lose sight of our primary concern or our primary responsibility, and a concern that we hear reflected over and over again, which is the health and safety of our students and our staff. Okay, that said, I'm going to ask, if you would, for someone to make a motion that we finalize the 3-week phased restart for pre-K through 5.
I'm happy to make that motion, Steve. The motion is that-
Jennifer, okay, so we have a motion by Jennifer. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
And a second by Megan. Okay, a motion by Jennifer, second by Megan, that we finalize the 3-week phased-in restart for pre-K through 5. Okay, let's have our discussion now. Comments from the board.
Well, I appreciate, I think a lot of the comments you read, and I appreciate, just to kind of back up what you said, Steve, certainly we have to remain flexible. The whole state does, and we certainly do as a district and as a community. So as things are evaluated every 2 weeks, or obviously if something comes up, we're going to reevaluate where we're at. And certainly the 3 weeks, I think, was to help everyone get acclimated. And certainly if we find that's not working for whatever reason, or if things are the positivity rate is higher, or whatever is happening in the community, we're certainly going to reevaluate. So I still feel that this is our best plan overall, and that, we'll be able to continue to answer questions. And, I appreciate everybody's concerns and what everyone wrote in. But yeah, I think I'm still for the motion.
Thanks, Lou. Any other comments from board?
I support the plan. I also support the kindergarten approach. I think that's a wonderful way to allow parents and kindergarten students and teachers to get a chance to meet each other and get prepared for the year. I think that's a wonderful opportunity. What I heard from a lot of the comments were centered around mask wearing and getting our students getting used to wearing masks. And I assume also our teachers to getting used to wearing masks for long periods of time. I hope I was part of it. That was my understanding, that this gradual approach to the first couple of weeks would certainly help all of us get accustomed to the length of time to wear a mask. And I know that there are a lot of specifics about trying to understand how every part of the school day will work. And that we have there's been a lot of thought and a lot of work to do to understand all those things, but some of those things are going to have to be learned. And I think we'll go to school every day, we, the teachers, the administrators, the students, and we're going to learn something. And then every day, those wonderful teachers are going to reflect on what happened and come back and apply those things. And what classroom teachers do is teach process and procedure at the beginning of the school for so many things. And that is what they're prepared to do. And like mask wearing, like every other of those procedures, it will be taught, it will be practiced, it will be retaught, and teachers will continue to find ways to meet the needs of their students. And I saw that firsthand for 8 or 9 years working with some of the greatest teachers that we have in our district. So I feel that our teachers are up to this. I think our administrators are up to this. And I feel very confident that our students perhaps may be able to get used to this new school that they're going to have to go to, maybe even faster than the adults are. They seem to adapt really well and with greater ease. So I support this plan. I believe that with all that we have provided parents and students, that we have many different opportunities for them: distance learning, in-person learning, addressing individual needs. So I hope that with all the options that we're providing our families, that there's something in there that meets most everyone's individual needs. But I do know that we're always open to hear what those needs are and continue to address them. So I support the motion, and I hope we'll be able to get to this tonight and get our teachers and our administrators the tools that they can need to start school. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thanks. Additional comments?
Steve, I'd like to, I'm not going to be as articulate as Jennifer on this, but I just want to say publicly that I fully understand, and I think we all understand the gravity of this decision before us tonight. And I know that it looks monumental on what schools and staff and kids have to do. But I did, you know, we've all been taking this really seriously, doing our homework. And, you know, just to kind of echo some comments that I read today online, one from Dr. Fauci, that the default position is to try to the best of our ability to get children back to school as safely as we can. The American Academy of Pediatrics says the pandemic has reminded so many of what we have long understood, that educators are invaluable in children's lives, and that attending in person offers children a wide array of health and educational benefits, which we've proven time and time again for years that we are educating kids, but we've been a social net for kids for a long time. And then again, I know we're all looking locally. The CDC today says we have a positivity rate of 0.75. Hospitalizations are low, and Saginaw County has no community spread with 0 deaths. And then there's just more that we've all read that we can say. And I just wanted to say that because all of these comments are very well thought out, very genuine, very passionate. But at the end of the day, after reading all the surveys and reading the plan and all the questions, it's just something that I feel we have to try. And of course, we'll circle back if things, you know, need to be reported as not being successful. But those are just my 2 cents.
Thank you, Lorna. Thank you. Any additional comments from others on the board? No?
Well, I was just going to say that I just really agree with what Jen and Lorna just said. So those are my thoughts as well. So thank you for saying them so well for me.
Thanks, Megan. Thanks. Anything else from the board? I know this is a time there you know, there remains a lot of anxiety out there in the community. I think we, as other board members have said, we've read the comments, we've read the material, but on balance, I agree. I shouldn't say I agree. I'm not sure how the board is going to vote yet, I guess, but on balance, I have to say that I think the plan that has been proposed is one that is properly cautious. We can revisit it at any time if it fails, but it is where I believe we should start this school year off. The way we should start this school year off. We do have to get kids back to learning. You know, that we know from I think we learned a lot from our remote learning experience, and I think Patrick and Katie and that original ad hoc committee, or that first ad hoc committee that looked at our remote learning experience, made some great strides and great recommendations to improve the offerings from the RSU. But as across the country, you know, remote learning was not the way to go. There's a great deal and when we did the postmortem on our remote learning experience, we heard from teachers, parents, everyone alike that just said we've got to get kids back in the classroom, and that putting the student in a safe space, working with a teacher is a fundamentally important thing to the development of that youth, of that young mind, and we've got to get back there, and this is an opportunity to do it. So, okay, if there are no more comments, I'll call the question. So we have a motion by Jennifer, a second by Megan, that we we finalized the 3-week phased in restart for pre-K through 5, and we approve that plan going forward. So I'll call the roll again. Anita,
Aye.
Lorna,
Aye.
Lou,
Aye.
Megan,
Aye.
Jennifer,
Aye.
Tanner has not joined us. Steve, I vote aye. So that is 6 ayes and no nays. So thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, our next item is adjournment. We have a regular board meeting scheduled for August 24th, Monday. I do just want to poll the board. Patrick distributed a draft agenda to Lou and I today, but he posed the question whether we should continue to hold our meetings remotely or get together again, perhaps without the public present at first, if that's what the guideline remains in 2 weeks, but to do the meeting as we did our meeting August 3rd at the middle school in with us socially distanced and with the meeting live streamed out to the public. Were folks comfortable with that format and that venue?
Yeah, I think it should be in person.
Okay.
Yes.
Everybody comfortable?
The only thing, and I know it was our first time, the audio was pretty hard when I listened to the recording, and I'm sure that's just it was just our first run, but I liked meeting in person.
Okay.
So
Yep. Okay. So we will set this. We'll ask Dean and Damien to set up that room again for the meeting. If the CDC guideline, the main guideline, allows us to have larger public gatherings than are currently allowed, we will reevaluate that and perhaps open to the public. But again, that's subject to the CDC guidelines. So our next meeting will be August 24th, and we will do it in person at BMS. Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, so we have a motion by Lorna and
Jason's turn.
Jason, you want to say something?
Just very briefly, I would just say on behalf of the administrators, thank you for your continued support. It helps us continue on with all that needs to be done. So I just want to say thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Jason. Thanks. So we have a motion by Lorna, a second by Lou. All in favor of adjournment? I guess we got to call the roll. Anita?
Aye.
Lorna?
Aye.
Lou?
Aye.
Megan?
Aye.
Jennifer?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Okay, thank you all very much. Thanks. Have a good evening.
Aye. Thank you.